The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to the Empower Hour with Greater Nashua Mental Health. The Empower Hour will provide information and support about mental health, substance use, and behavioral health. Our goal is to share inspiring stories about transforming lives, to strike down stigma, and to encourage our community to reach out and get help when needed. Mental health is part of all of our lives. It's time we talk about it. I'm Dr. Cynthia Whitaker, President and CEO of Greater Nashua Mental Health, and it's time to get empowered. Welcome to the Empower Hour with Greater Nashua Mental Health. I'm Dr. Cynthia Whitaker, the President and CEO at Greater Nashua Mental Health. Today with me, I'm excited to have our first guest from outside of Greater Nashua Mental Health, Ken Lewis, who's the Executive Director of Heart's Peer Support. Welcome, Ken.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here with me. I appreciate it so much. I'd love to just start off with telling people what Heart's Peer Support is.
Well, Heart's Peer Support Center is an adult educational wellness center for those that struggle with mental health issues or at risk of, is pretty much of our state funding stream requirement. So that kind of opens the door for anyone in the community that needs services. It's a community-based service program that's funded with the state of New Hampshire Bureau of Mental Health Services. We're kind of like a community center where folks can come in where they're at. We try to meet them where they're at, create an environment, a welcoming environment where folks can come in and get some support groups that more holistic model and kind of use computers, get something to eat, just find other people that might have similar challenges that they face in the community and find resources or create networks that keep us in the community rather than sometimes in the past where we would be stuck in behavioral health units or in the state hospital, and that transition made it hard. So the state of New Hampshire, like other states, have kind of went to the peer model where peers are helping peers. And it seems to work nationally. It's kind of grown. So we're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And Fridays right now, because of the pandemic, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're not currently open on weekends because of the pandemic and the staff challenges. We also, in 2013, we opened up a peer respite program. Now, New Hampshire had the first peer respite program pretty much nationally, and that was in Claremont called Stepping Stones. Now, that model was a peer-based program, and it was a pilot program similar to how we started, 20-something years ago in that area. It was kind of a pilot to see if it would work, and it worked, so they decided to take a chance on the peer respite program, which is kind of like an alternative to hospitalization. It's in the peer holistic model, peer support model, non-clinical, non-medical home environment where people can stay with us 1 to 7 days, 6 nights, and instead of going into the hospital for those that need to go to the hospital or don't want to go to a behavioral health unit or emergencies or a state hospital setting, that can have and still stay in the community and do the things they need to do, stay connected, work, go to their meetings or see their providers, things like that. And that's, we opened in 2013. Erica Riera, the director of BMH, or whatever the initials were at that time, the DHHS Mental Health Services at the time, decided to take a risk and reinvest into the state of New Hampshire and allow us to contract that. The other program that we just did a pilot program on kind of came out of the 10-year plan that was happening before the pandemic. We did a lot of great work in the state and decided that peers should be more involved because nationally it was a really big model and it was working. So we were working on doing some community-based beds that were more short-term transitional stay. So during the pandemic, we opened in November, I believe it was, a 3-bedroom adjacent to our facility at Pine Street Extension. And that allows for folks that are stepping up in the community, that need more services or having a challenge finding housing in this pandemic, or more wraparound services, that we could work with folks like you, the Community Mental Health Center here in Nashua, and other providers and families and resources that could support them in being successful in 90 days, within 90 days. So that's a 3-bedroom. We have the 2-bedroom, and then we have the peer center.
So I heard you talk about kind of 4 different core services maybe. So one being maybe what people might refer to as like a drop-in center. People can come in during those open times, have access to support, have access to computers. Then I heard you mention groups, like maybe you have I know before the pandemic, you had a schedule of some groups where people could come for a certain topic and talk with others about it, or do art therapy type stuff. And then the respite center and the step up, step down bed. So that's what I heard you say. Is that the right kind of summary?
Yeah, a little nervous here, so I kind of jumped around a little bit. But
That's
yes, in the peer center, it's based like a community center. We used to call them drop-in centers in the old days, Cynthia, but or Dr. Whitaker, but we're kind of moving them towards more of an adult educational wellness center where peers are supporting peers with some training and some holistic models like intentional peer support and wellness recovery action plan, and other models like SAMHSA models that are WHAM, whole health action management programs. They're more geared towards helping us support each other and kind of like an AA program where peers are helping peers, or in the old days, the Indians helped each other as a community. We took that model, that peer model, and just expanded on it.
So every hour you're open, there's staff there that are familiar with those models, that if somebody were to come in needing kind of support, we could have a conversation, set up times to come back, or whatever support somebody might need. You use the term meet people where they're at. Maybe they want to come but not talk, or...
Right. We just try to open that environment where it's somewhat as safe as we can make it, and friendly environment where they can come in, have a cup of coffee, use the computer, grab a book, a game. Oh, by the way, we have some of these peer meetings that we all get together and we talk about things that are going on in our lives. It could be from just mental health issues that we're struggling with today, or coping skills that we've learned to use for these things. And it could be from budgeting, it could be from finding a job, or where, like I said, where they're at and what their needs are. It could be, substance use disorder. It could be what we call now co-occurring disorder. In my day, it was dual diagnosis.
Right.
But, so we can have like a consider recovery group, or we give ideas and referrals what works for us, because collectively we don't individually have all the answers, but together we could share ideas, and then we pick and choose what would work for us and try those things. So we try to, then we have some social hours that we kind of structure it, but kind of loosely structure it so people can kind of do what they want when they want, and that's not forced. it's kind of self-chosen. So we do social groups, we do arts and crafts. A lot of the folks were liking making paintings and hanging them up, or they would do puzzles and glue them together, and we would frame them. And then it was becoming more of their center, because we want a total buy-in of peers to say this is part of their center. And then monthly we have a members meeting where they help us decide what the structure of the programming would look like. What would they like for like monthly educational groups? We want Greater Nashua Mental Health Center to come in and talk to us about the new mobile crisis center next door to us. How's that looking? What's that going to look like and affect our community? Things like that. So what are the rules or what we call house agreements? What does that look like? Do we need to pandemic kind of change that and add things like screening, wearing masks, having conversations about making those decisions together?
What the word I would use is like co-create, it sounds like, right?
Correct.
Like it's not that you as the executive director or the other staff are making the decisions, but all of the members are coming together and having voice in what programming happens, or what they'd like to see more of, or maybe what they'd like to see less of,
Right.
or those kinds of things. How exciting.
Yeah, all inclusive kind
Yeah.
of thing, you know, and it's something that most of the time when folks come in, they say, wow, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? And we say, no, it's more of a relaxed atmosphere. So it's kind of a acquired learning process for folks to say, wait a minute, I have a choice in some of these decisions. And I think it helps them become a better patient or client for you guys or in the community. It helps them get confidence where they can make decisions and become active members of their community.
So you're speaking to, I think, a couple of the reasons why you have the honor of being the first non-Greater Nashua Mental Health staff person here. One was what you were just speaking to is certainly empowerment, right? And you know the whole idea of the show is the Empower Hour. Our mission is about empowering people. And what I hear in that, giving people choice, meeting people where they're at, not saying you have to do this, do that, is empowering to people, right? They get to choose their own destiny, do what works for them, figure things out in their own time. So like I'd love that about the model of peer support. And then you were kind of hinting towards some of another reason there is that there really is a need for both services that the mental health center provides by providers and treatment, and true support from peers. And so we've really created a collaboration between the Community Mental Health Center and the Peer Support Agency. And I think that's what I really wanted people to hear about and learn about kind of today, is just why that's important. So I don't know if you have an opinion from your standpoint why that's important before I can jump in too.
Well, I think we're blessed in this region 6, in the Greater Nashua area, in the mental health silo, is that we do have a relationship. And I think the state's idea is that we all work together. And, you know, it's like life. There's struggles and there's challenges with those relationships and those bridges. But I found, you know, coming from the mental health world or the professional or clinical world, that bridges are very important and relationships are very important. So, like I said, we're very blessed in New Hampshire and Nashua, and you know, I've known you for years. So it's been an advantage for us to know our providers and be close to our providers, and having a good relationship where we can work together, because it's the old philosophy is it takes a village to raise a child.
Exactly.
So to me, I don't know, that gets me very emotional, because it it is the philosophy of peer support, and it's the philosophy of humanity is
Right.
in community. And
Right.
you see a lot of that these days where there's a lot of division. But I just want to stay in my lane and create something in our community.
Hmm.
And, you and I have worked together for many years. And, at first we did, I think Greater Nashua Mental Health Center did a pilot program with SAMHSA on mental health and wellness and physical wellness. They figured, oh, wait a minute, the head and the body are connected.
Right.
And what affects physical health affects mental health. And what affects mental health affects your physical health.
Indeed.
So that was a great pilot program that you guys received. You worked hard to get it, and then you included us.
Right.
And that was a great, probably the first major step for us in our relationship.
Yeah. I remember co-leading smoking cessation groups.
Yes.
Myself as the clinician alongside a peer support staff from Hearts.
Yeah.
And then there were other parts of the study as well, or of the grant that Hearts was part of, like a walking group and other things.
Walking group, the Y, we would take them to the Y
right.
if the weather wasn't good. We were blessed to be near the Mines Falls, so we got all the trails. And you brought in a dietitian for us, and that really changed us to and the blessing of those a particular model pilot program like that is we try to keep that in-house, even though we'll probably never match the quality of that professional that the dietitians that came in during those times. We kept some of those recipes and that concept that, hey, we want to do cooking groups, we want to do nutritional groups, we want to talk about the value, because most of us, we have shorter lifespans because of medication or health, secondary challenges with our health. So it really means a lot and to have that value and that concern and that shift of way we look at things and changing our habits to be more positive and healthier.
It's a great example of the importance of both models coming together in collaboration. Because had we, for example, done that SAMHSA grant all on our own and not included you, our reach into the community would have been much less, or even our impact on certain individuals would have been much less, right? We would have served them during our therapeutic hour or, during group therapy, and then hopefully they were getting support elsewhere or from other staff, maybe functional support services or our community-based staff coming in. But to bring peer support alongside meant they were also learning it alongside somebody else, or seeing somebody else doing it successfully and maybe giving them hope to do it successfully. And just really feels like it lets the reach be broader and deeper and really just sink in maybe for people too in a different way than a therapist might not be able to make happen for somebody.
Right. It's to my feelings the same way, is that it impacts a greater audience. And if we've created this community, sense of community where we get 30 people a day, then why not work together? You guys do great things with your individual groups, and people talk about them and share them and give them as resources for others to be involved in those. But then then we share some of these programs and these ideas that they bring them in, and it, like you said, it becomes rooted deeper.
Right.
So the growth and the exposure is greater.
Right. And certainly we want a healthy community, as much of a healthy community as we can have. And so if folks that are our clients are benefiting from a service and then they go and share, even if the person they share with never comes and experiences that service for themselves, that person might be better, and then our community as a whole is better. And so the more the more we can walk together in this kind of collaboration, the mental health center and the peer support agency, the better the community is for it.
Oh, I agree 100%. You know, I mean, even if the second person doesn't engage in those services, word of mouth is a lot of the time. We take information and then we share it, and then it might have an effect, it might not. Same thing. If the word of mouth is given to somebody, they'll say, hey, I know this resource. I've never used it, or I know someone that has and it was successful. Here's a resource. So even if it doesn't continue to trickle down, it does.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, the other program, pilot program that you guys did was supportive employment.
Right.
There was a time when supportive employment started at this state, and they started having you guys kind of roll it out.
Right.
And again, here's another opportunity, because we took a chance on the health model, that let's try this and see if they want to be involved in being engaged in this. And so then we did the same thing. We took the pilot program. You guys did an incentive that works well on us, food and incentive gift cards. But, you know, it allowed that program to come in with the people that have that knowledge and share it with us, and throw it out there and see the shift and the change in the community. So supportive employment was another one, and we took good things from that. We had a template for a resume that we kept on our all our computers still. We update them, but we still have that. And some of the expertise that was brought to us was, you know, how to prepare for an interview, connect with the Grey Nun about getting clothes for the interviews. So we took those nuggets and we kept them alive.
Well, and so what I love, like I often make like a triangle and say, like, people in general at the big bottom base of a triangle can get support from family, friends, faith communities, right? It's only the people at the top of the triangle that need, you know, the more intensive services. And so by us sharing that knowledge with you, it's a great example, supported employment, right? Now you can help people toward the bottom of the triangle. But then if somebody, okay, maybe they need a staff person to really go with them on those interviews, or have more support, or to talk deeper about how their anxiety is getting in the way, then you can say, okay, Greater Nashua can do a little bit more in their supported employment program than we can. So again, by collaborating, by sharing with you in our knowledge, our program, it allows you to reach people at that level that maybe don't need our services because they're getting support in a different way.
Or they're starting out, they're falling through, or they're coming back. That's what we see.
Yeah, exactly.
People coming in the door, they don't know anything about it. So using that value to say, oh, here's what we have, and this is where we learned it. These are the resources in the community. If you need more,
it's there if you need it.
This is where it's at.
Yeah. And those were very successful programs, which is why, you know, flash forward to not too long ago when we started to want to hire peer supports within Greater Nashua. We said, we don't want to do this on our own at first. And we at first contracted with you and had your staff come in and sort of, okay, is this going to work for us? And, you know, and then ultimately now we got the hang of how to do this. And, you know, we have peer support staff, you know, on our own that are kind of embedded within our teams to help make services better. And Nick Perricone was one of our first peer support staff at Greater Nashua, and that came from Hearts. And, you know, I did an episode of the Empower Hour with him talking about what was that like, the difference between peer support kind of within the treatment team and how that's been. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, breaking the ice and taking what we call the healthy risk, you know, and because sometimes we fear change.
Mhm.
No.
And don't we all?
But most of the time, the change is what the quality in our life is, and it opens new doors. So yes, that was hard to let Nick go, but I knew that with the state investing in peer movement, in and beginning in the ACT team, Community Assertive Treatment team, that was going to be the first avenue that the community mental health centers, like yourself, were going to broaden that scope of services and allowing peers in that. So I knew that you and I talked, off and on, and we thought, what about this? I love that because you'll call me and ask me about ideas, and I'm going to tell you.
Right, I do.
Maybe not the exact answer, but we're friends like that, and we
Exactly.
have a relationship where we can be open about that. And so I knew that if I had to think of the future of peer support and the future of our relationship and what it has been and where it's going, and I knew that if I agreed to train these folks and give you some good quality folks that would transition and continue to have the conversation with them, prepare them, and because that's our final outcome is to be productive members of society.
Absolutely.
To be at the center for as long as you need it. But if you go away and you do good things, then that's a success, even though it's hard to measure success in our business because people move on and sometimes they don't send you a postcard, hey, I'm president of the United States now. They don't tell you these things, but you hope that if you lay out the road that these things and these opportunities will happen. So that was a great big step for the movement of peers in the greater Nashua area.
Right, and again, it was a collaboration and a change that ultimately was good for the community and the clients, right? Especially our assertive community treatment ACT clients. They tend to really be on the ACT team and interact a lot with the ACT staff. And so to have the peer right there alongside them not only helps the clients, but also help the staff to think more about like intentional peer support model values, like the value of language and the importance of the way we refer to people and things like that. So having the peer there, I think, helped transform some of the services even that we provide.
Yeah, it kind of created a natural internal training or exposure to our side of the world and us to learn more about your side of the world, what it's like to be a professional in the system. So.
Yeah, exactly. And now, with the mobile crisis team, then that Greater Nashua has, we are required to have, essentially clinician and peer teams. So it's kind of like, wow, all that time back when we were doing it, when nobody was requiring us to do it, right? But we're using this grant money to try to figure out how to work together. Flash forward to now, like it's a requirement we work together, a clinician and a peer in these
And it
models.
allowed that progress naturally and prepared us for that.
Exactly.
Because if we never took the risk or that opportunity, we would, sometimes we get dealt some programs and we're behind that's kind of the cart before the horse process, where we're not really prepared, where this was okay, we've done this before, we've seen that it worked, it's exposed to our staff, the clients, the peers, so we've laid it out. Now there's this big program in the community that's going to make a big difference in the whole state. And, being the third program to roll out here, or, well, third or fourth, you kind of took it over, thank God. That's for another story. But, it allowed that natural flow of the working relationship with the professional and the certified peer specialist.
Right. And I think because of the relationship between Greater Nashua and Hearts, our staff have seen the success of peer support as well. And so it's no big deal adding a peer, because we've seen it work. I think for me, one of the biggest differences, and I think one of the things that sometimes causes clash between the two, is the language we use, right? A lot of provider or clinical language is somewhat negative, right? Like everybody has a diagnosis, and we talk about these treatments, and whereas I know, part of intentional peer support model is, it's the language the person wants to use. It's really being mindful and respectful in our language, and not saying things like, that's schizophrenic, right? But that person who has a diagnosis of schizophrenia, because they're a person and they're much more than their diagnosis and things like that. And I think the provider world is better for it, for that influence from the peer world, because I think peers coming together allowed for that advocacy and language change to happen in a way that one-on-one maybe wasn't having the impact that it's had.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's been a big shift.
Yeah.
And I forget the term where I don't know, it's not altruistic, but some kind of shift where you see things different and it just naturally
heuristic, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, because in the past, it was, when we first started, it was like, oh no, here's another program in the community. It's competitive. You're going to bill Medicaid, and then we're going to, are we going to be competitive on the services that we provide? And no. We're more adjunct
Yeah, absolutely.
to your services, and we'll enhance the possibility of enhancing each other to create more of a community-based services by working together, where, like I said, there was a challenge at first, and so that took a long time. But I think realizing that, okay, we're in this together, and that we look at it with an open mind as a positive thing or an opportunity, that really did change the ideas and the whole vision for the whole thing.
And there are plenty of people who come to the Peer Support Center that are not connected to Greater Nashua.
Right.
And maybe they have other providers, maybe they're no longer in treatment or not yet in treatment, or whatever their individual story is. And that's okay. Like you say, you meet people where they're at. You don't require them to be in treatment, anything like that, though you will tell people success stories of your own. Kind of reminds me of like the idea of like, I'll tell you my testimony and my story, and what can you learn from it? And then, you take what you take based on what resonates or, works for you. Right.
It's like NAMI's version of speaking in your own voice.
Yeah.
It's allowing the empowerment of the individual to, years ago we came up with the term patient-centered services.
Right.
And that was probably the shift to prepare ourselves for peer services to be included into the clinical world or the professional world, because without those little subtle shifts,
right,
we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, patient-centered, it is kind of like the theory that got us to where we are today, right? Because it's not about me as the professional, right? It's about making the life of the patient better. And so in order to do that, I have to hear you, see you, hear your story, and know what's true for you. People are not broken legs that you just put in a cast and they get better, right? They're much more individualized than that, and we're certainly much more complex, and so it takes a team.
Yes,
it takes a team.
It's a journey.
It is a journey. That's for sure. So what excites you about the future when you think about, okay, so here how we we've come. What do you think's next for a next iteration of peer support alongside community mental health? Or
Well, I'll start from the beginning before I go too far into the future. But I'm excited about mobile crisis. We talked, and our last little collaboration was we want to talk to the landlord. We want to see about expansion for Greater Nashua Mental Health Center. Can we provide some services, expand services over by you guys?
right.
There's always challenges with landlords, but you were able to kind of put in a mobile crisis response team where it was a major challenge. It was kind of not working out well for us in our community. So you've taken that, you took a healthy risk, you came over near us to a community that seems to be a magnet for people needing services or drawn to that area, either beginning or in the middle or being reconnected to services. But now we have Hearts Peer Support Center on the back row with respite, and now Step Up, Step Down. And on the other side, on the other end cap, is Mobile Crisis Response Team, as well as some other new programs that you're going to include
so
there.
we have 2 apartments that each have 2 bedrooms in them. So it's like, I think of it as you've got your Step Up, Step Down, and you've got your peer respite, and then we've got these crisis apartments, which are like maybe one more step up from the peer respite of needing support and needing a little bit more clinical. But again, we have both clinical and peers there. And the idea to keep people out of the hospital, right? And to give people support in a shorter, more comfortable way. And that then allows them to get back to doing life without us as much as they need after that. Yeah.
Right. So the biggest challenge, I guess I was roundabout way, was the biggest challenge for the future for me is, and it's always been in the past several years, is the emergency room.
Yeah.
There's the challenge with the private sector and the emergency, in the hospitals. Working with them, we were in a program that worked on all the big providers getting together and kind of forced us to be at the same table and come up with some ideas. So I think that opened up some good avenues of communication with the private sector and the bigger hospitals and the emergency rooms. So now you'll see them where they're doing little pods of behavioral health unit pods or in the emergency rooms, which is good. And then, to me, for the future is to see the buy-in with Greater Nashua Mental Health Center and peers. It doesn't matter if they're your peers or our peers, as long as there's that model in there to help those challenges in the emergency room. Mobile crisis is the biggest dynamic we have now for the alleviation of that challenge. Access, mobile crisis response team working with the police or any providers or first responders to see if we can have more human interactions. You have Sue Mead that used to train the police. You had paved the road there. So that's going to show its reward, I think, now, because there's a trust in the community with first responders and the different departments that will allow mobile crisis and to alleviate the problems in the emergency room, solve the problems in the community before they expand and overflow our health system in the private sector. So to me, that seeing the mobile crisis grow and expand is going to be a big future endeavor for this community.
Yeah.
So, lately we've been working with because when you start something new, there's a lot of hoops and things
glitches.
You got to deal with the city and the restrictions and all the requirements. that everybody wants the T's crossed and the I's dotted, to be able to allow these services to be in the community. You don't know until you go through it.
So true.
I've seen some of them, or had minimal challenges myself, but that's a big endeavor, Cynthia.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you for that, Ken. I mean, it really, I think your explanation of like the things in the past paving the way, and like we keep iterating to get things better and better. It gives us a lot of hope for the future, right? Because, you know, now we're at this point of mobile crisis teams requiring clinicians and peers working together. Yeah, maybe the next step is hospitals embracing the peer model, because they're going to see these peers working with mobile crisis teams now, right? And so what could that mean? You know, or, you know, our peers in the hospitals more to help people get out faster, or, you know, working alongside there, or, you know, just that it's part of the multidisciplinary team.
Right. Community-based services.
Right. Community-based services, peer support, the voice of lived experience that just is part of the team. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the apartments to open up in the mobile crisis response team, but it's given us an opportunity to work even more on our relationship and to kind of lean on each other to make sure that the community is served in those critical times. Because, you know, when building relationships and being that close, we can walk over and talk to each other, where most of the times we rely on phone. And phone's fine, but it's kind of impersonal. So we were able to kind of support, as you're developing and completing this process for this great endeavor that's going to do great things in our community, we were able to kind of stretch and bend a little bit with our services to support your services that you're putting in place. So talk about a great relationship.
Yeah.
It's doing this. It's allowing, you know, a great relationship is a give and take.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's a give and take, there's a trust building there, and there's a need for continued and wanting more of a relationship. So.
Yeah. Well, I always say life is about a cycle of giving and receiving, right? And so we have to both give and receive, right? And that's what builds an equal partnership, collaboration that ultimately is better for the community and everybody that, you know, needs the services that we both provide.
And it's brought to my attention that, and it was brought to me just the other day, that the people we serve, our fellow brothers and sisters, they see that. They see that there is a relationship. They see that there's a collaboration. So there's an allowed trust. And when that trust is given and received and they get quality care, they tell others. So it just naturally progresses.
Well, I abundantly thank you and all of your staff and the peer volunteers and just everything that you do over at Hearts Peer Support. We appreciate it. It's nice for us to know that we can send people there for extra support, or, you know, if somebody we're concerned about maybe isn't hearing something we would really like them to hear, we send them your way, and we know that they're hearing good, positive stories about a lot of recovery and success that people have had. You know, living with a mental illness is not doomsday. I mean, there's plenty of examples of people living successfully and productive, wonderful lives. So I thank you for your awesome work and for collaborating with us and for the continuation of where we're going to go with this collaboration and truly having the lived experience voice be a multidisciplinary voice that holds equal weight to every other voice on the team to help support our people. So thank you for that.
And
anything?
I thank you too, because you know, we work together, and I've seen you come up in the ranks, and I think the community is blessed to have you
Oh.
where you are, you know, and I know a little bit about having that weight, but I think there is no better person for us in this community to have lead Greater Nashua Mental Health Center than you.
Oh, people are going to think I planted, you know?
and that service goes both ways,
It
because
sure does.
if we need help or professional or clinical help, and someone comes in and they're in distress and we can't, you know, peer support doesn't always work. Sometimes we need,
Yep.
that's why together
Together we're better.
we're better. So when we need help, you're right there to help us too. So
Yeah.
the feeling is mutual, sister.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think thinking about a nugget of empowerment, if I were to think about what I think is an important nugget out of this conversation, it's that we become better ourselves, or we can be better empowered when we don't do things alone.
There's
Right?
power in numbers.
It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, hey, I can't do this on my own, or I could do it better if you walked alongside me in it. And there's empowerment in that, because I can be better when we're together.
Excellent.
So thank you for being here with me today on Empower Hour. And thank you for watching our show. And I hope you have an empowered day.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.